Shun was the ugly, disgusting, overconfident son of a mentally ill scientist who couldn't do anything on his own. But he ended up teleporting to an underground secret world where he discovered that his dad was a murderer and was not even his real father. His real dad never brought back the milk. It all begins when we meet Shun Asanaga, a loser who loved shiny rocks called crystals. He thought there was a whole other world inside them. Shun is really excited because it's his dad's birthday and he has a big surprise planned. But his mom says his dad might be busy and might get late as he's an even bigger loser. Shun's dad is really busy at work and misses a call from Shun. Worried, Shun decides to go see his dad. He takes a train to his dad's workplace. When he gets there, he can't find his dad but sees a shiny blue crystal. As he looks at it, a bright light comes from the crystal and shows a strange new world. Curious, Shun reaches out and is pulled into the crystal. In this new world, there's a man named Emilio trying to kill his stepdad, a king named Delzane. Emilio wants revenge for his real father who was killed by Delzane, but the king is very strong and easily defeats Emilio. Delzane is angry but doesn't kill Emilio, just puts him in jail. While Emilio is in jail, a bright light appears and Shun comes through it. Shun has no idea what the F happened and where he is. Emilio is surprised to see Shun and tells him to hide. Guards come and try to catch Shun, but a warp relic that is a special sword appears out of his chest. He fights the guards and frees Emilio. They run away together. On their way, they meet a scary fighter who works for the king. They fight him, but end up falling into a river. They think the fighter is gone, so they hide in the sewers. Emilio tells Shun they are in a world called Endora. When they come out of the sewers, they see a girl waiting for them. She calls Emilio a prince, which surprises Shun. Shun keeps asking Emilio why the girl called him a prince, and why someone would put a prince in jail as that's bullshit. As they walk through the woods, they see a giant shiny rock that gives off light like a sun. The girl introduces herself as Alicia, and her pet is Falarian. Elsewhere, the king is worried about Emilio after he falls into the river, but he thinks Emilio is still alive. He sends people to look for him. The king knows someone helped Emilio with a special warp relic, and thinks Emilio went to see Pascal, who is like a teacher to him. After that, suddenly a big wild pig attacks the kids. Emilio fights it with his warp relic. Shun is surprised when he sees that Alicia's pet is also her warp relic, and that it's a dragon. Shun has to use his own warp relic to hurt the pig. Then, Shun and Alicia get caught in a surprise trap. Emilio uses one of the traps to finally defeat the pig. Just then, Pascal shows up, who is a mad scientist. He says he put the traps there to keep people away, which is so extra. He's surprised when he finds out that Shun is from the world above Endora called Surface, and has a special warp relic too. Pascal takes them to his home to talk. They eat a special meal with strange food like frogs and shit. Shun tells Pascal how he came to this place. Pascal shows Shun a map of their world. He says the earth is hollow and they live underneath it. Their sun is called Adamus, and there are no stars here. The person who made this place kept it hidden because he didn't want the surface people's ideas to ruin everything. People in Endora know about the world above because they have a book that tells them about it. A long time ago, people from Endora and the world above could visit each other. Pascal has even been there. He says there was a special city called Babylon that was like a door between the two worlds. But Babylon and Endora was destroyed in a big accident. That's why people can't go between the worlds anymore. King Delzane tried to rebuild Babylon, but couldn't finish it. Pascal thinks he can finish it later. Pascal then says that he wants to see Shun's warp relic. Shun shows it to him. Pascal explains that not everyone in Endora can make this kind of weapon. It needs special warp particles that only exist in Endora. You can't see these particles, but they give things power just like atoms. Then Shun says he wants to go to Babylon even though it's not finished. Pascal and the others try to tell him it's a long way, but Shun still wants to go as he's done. Pascal says he once knew how to fix Babylon, but didn't want people to go between the worlds, so he stopped working on it. The king told other people to keep trying to fix it. Suddenly, they see guards from the king's palace. Pascal says they can't fight the guards, and they need to leave. They escape in a special plane that Pascal built. Now they're going to another safe place, but Shun still insists that he wants to go to Babylon. They quickly reach a different part of the forest, and Pascal makes a bumpy landing with the aircraft. After walking around the rocks for a little while, they find a place Pascal has already set up. Emilio looks around the small room, and sees Pascal has the same special knife as him. The king gave them both the same knife. Later that night, Emilio and Pascal go outside to talk and get some fresh air. Pascal wants to know how Emilio met Shun. Emilio says Shun just appeared in a bright light while he was in his jail cell. Outside, Pascal explains why he doesn't want to rebuild Babel. He has read old books that say they shouldn't mess with people on the surface. He thinks Endora could be in trouble if people can go between the two worlds. They also have different ideas about the people on the surface. Pascal thinks the two worlds should stay separate. They also talk about how the king raised Emilio. Emilio's dad is Delzane, but Emilio doesn't think of him as a dad. Pascal then says that he wants to send Shun back to the surface and then completely break down Babel. He knows the king is also going there, so he wants to get there first. After that, in a flashback scene, we see how Pascal and Emilio met in the past. After young Emilio finds out the king killed his dad, he changes and starts practicing combat all the time. Pascal comes to him and says he will be Emilio's teacher. Emilio likes Pascal after seeing his tests and starts learning from him. Then the king surprisingly exiles Pascal from the kingdom. This makes Emilio even angrier at the king. In the present day, Delzane has given the job of finding Pascal and Emilio to the Zuzians. He tells them to watch Pascal and try to catch him. After that, Pascal needs to go outside the cave to find something important in the royal archives. He tells the trio to stay alert while he's away. After Alicia also leaves the cave to pee, Emilio and Shun are the only ones left. Emilio tells Shun that he wants Shun's help to defeat Delzane. In return, Emilio will help Shun go back home. Delzane is going to Babylon, and it will be bad if he gets there first. They must stop Delzane before he reaches Babylon. Emilio has a plan, but he needs Shun to help him. Shun thinks about it and agrees to help. He asks Emilio when they will start. Emilio says they will leave that night while Alicia is sleeping. They don't want to bring Alicia with them as they are sexist, so they will leave her in the cave. Just then, Alicia comes back. They pretend nothing happened. Later that night, Emilio and Shun sneak out. While they are looking around, some people with swords stop them. These people call themselves the Ignots and say that this place is theirs. They are surprised to see people from the royal family on their land. Emilio tells the Ignots he wants to talk to their boss. Their leader, Demetrio, steps forward and asks Emilio why he's there. Emilio says he needs the Ignots to help him fight the king. He knows the Ignots are very strong, almost as strong as the Zuzians. Demetrio's friends think Emilio is useless, and they should just kill him. But Demetrio wants to hear Emilio out first. Demetrio asks Emilio what he will do after he kills the king. Emilio stops for a moment and says he doesn't care. He just wants to kill the king, even if it means dying himself. Demetrio is not happy with this answer and tells Emilio off. Emilio gets mad and uses his warp relic. Demetrio easily defeats him with a normal knife. Demetrio says having a relic doesn't make you strong. He also says Emilio is foolish to risk everything for revenge. Emilio finally understands what Demetrio means. Demetrio wants Emilio to be the leader after he kills the king. Emilio is not sure he can do it, but Shun tells Demetrio that Emilio will try his best. Demetrio agrees to let Emilio join them. Meanwhile, Pascal is seen talking to an old friend named Oho. They used to work together at the king's palace. Oho tells Pascal that Emilio tried to kill the king before running away. Pascal is surprised because he never knew this before. Later, Emilio and Shun go to the Ignots camp. They are told to get ready for work. They find out they have to wash clothes by the river. This is how the group makes money. When they reach the river, Shun learns that Demetrio knows he's not from the underground world. Demetrio doesn't care because people from different places live together there. One of the Ignot dudes who looks like a chick is named Uljuia. Shun thinks Uljuia isn't as strong as the others, but is important to the group. Uljuia then suddenly falls down and faints. When Uljuia wakes up, Shun finds out he's a boy who can see things that will happen in the future. Uljuia says he saw Shun back home when he fell. Shun is very happy because he thinks he'll go back home. He doesn't ask Uljuia about anything else. Meanwhile, Pascal returns to the cave and learns that the boys are missing. He knows they went to Babylon. He tells Alicia to get ready so they can follow them. They use their plane to find the boys. That night, Shun and Emilio argue. Emilio is angry at Shun for trusting the Ignots. Shun just wants to go back home and eat his mom's food. They start fighting each other. Demetrio watches them fight but doesn't stop them. They keep fighting until they both fall asleep. Not long after, Demetrio has his friends pour water on Shun and Emilio to wake them up. Then, they all sit down to plan their next steps. Before they finish talking, Shun tells Demetrio that the king is also going to Babylon. Afterward, Louise asks Shun and Emilio to come with her so she can help heal their injuries. She takes them to a tent and tells them to wait inside. It's hard for Shun and Emilio to be alone together, but they have to listen to Louise. Soon, Louise comes back with the things she needs to help them. When she enters, Emilio asks her if Demetrio really wants to work with the Zuzians. Louise says that the Zuzians weren't always mean. There are two kinds of people in Endora, the Endras and the Zuzians. The Endras are people born from humans and another kind of creature called Anadua. The Zuzians are born from Anadua and animals. A long time ago, the Endras and Zuzians were friendly and lived happily together. But then, the Endras started being unkind to the Zuzians. This is why the Zuzians are angry now. They have been treated badly for a long time, and Demetrio thinks the Zuzians might help them. Louise also says that she is half Zuzian. She tells a story about Demetrio and a Zuzian friend. Demetrio comes from a rich family and always had fun. When he was a kid, Demetrio was walking in the woods. He got lost and was trying to find his way out when he met a Zuzian kid. Even though he was afraid, the young Zuzian offered to be friends and led him out of the woods to his home. The Zuzian boy said his name was Lucio and told Demetrio to visit anytime. Their friendship grew stronger as they spent time together. When they were 15, they were walking down the street when they saw a man mistreating a Zuzian. Lucio tried to help but ended up getting hurt really badly. Lucio died from his injuries. Since then, Demetrio has worked hard to become strong to honor his friend. The story goes back to the present where Shun asks Uljuya for some time. He wants to test if Uljuya can really see the future. Uljuya discovers Shun's trick and decides to trick him back. He sends Shun to the woods to find a special bird. But the Zuzians working for Delzane are already there. Shun is quickly surrounded by the Zuzians. Demetrio arrives and fights the Zuzian leader. Emilio is coming to help Shun but wonders why he's doing it. During the fight, Shun's warp relic becomes more powerful, and he is able to hurt the Zuzian badly. He runs away because he knows he can't win against Emilio and Shun. Demetrio is still fighting the Zuzian leader and tries to get him to join their side. While they fight, Shun and Emilio see a bright light far away. The bright light shines after a loud boom. This gives Demetrio and his friends a chance to escape. Soon after, Shun and Emilio meet up with Pascal and Alicia. Emilio is surprised to see them together. Demetrio and his friends join the group. Pascal and Demetrio both want to know who the other people are. Demetrio says they need to hurry because their enemies might catch up to them. He and his friends leave. Emilio, Pascal, and Shun decide to talk alone. Pascal is angry with Emilio for working with the rebels just to hurt his father. He tells Emilio to be sure his dad really killed his real father before he gets angry. Pascal wants Emilio to find out the truth first. Alicia is also upset with Shun for letting Emilio join the rebels. Shun tries to say good things about Demetrio and the Ignates. We see a memory of Alicia and Emilio when they were young. Alicia liked to visit Emilio in the palace because she was tired of playing outside. But Emilio slowly became cold and distant. Now, Demetrio and his friends are in a meeting place. Demetrio wants Shun and Emilio to stay with them because he thinks they can help. Later, Shun tells Demetrio that Emilio and Pascal are fighting, and Alicia is really mad too. Demetrio shows Shun a map to Babylon. Shun doesn't care about the danger. He just wants to go back to the surface. The Ignates have also made up their minds to go to Babylon because the king is going there too. They know that the king will be safer in the castle, so Babylon is their best chance to stop him. Later, Alicia and Pascal join the group. Pascal quickly becomes friends with everyone and shows them lots of cool things he made, like a flamethrower. Louise is happy that Alicia is there because she won't be the only girl. Shun, Emilio, and Felix are going to get things ready for their trip. When Shun asks Felix why they want to beat the king, Felix says that things aren't fair. Rich people boss poor people around, and only poor people really understand this. Demetrio is the only one trying to make things better, so Felix wants to help him. Then, Demetrio talks to Pascal and asks what the king is planning. Pascal says he doesn't know what the king is thinking. Emilio doesn't know either because the king never tells anyone his plans. The next day, Demetrio gathers everyone to get ready for their trip. Shun really wants to go back home and will do anything to make it happen. The group finally reaches an ocean after some traveling, and Shun is really excited. But Pascal tells them it's actually a big canal, and they need to cross it to go to the Zuzians. They hope to talk to the Zuzians and get them to help them. Right now, they're in a big city called Amedius with a huge port. They decide to stay at a hotel for the night before going on. Alicia wants to go shopping and get Pascal some stuff. When they leave, they see Demetrio and his friends. Demetrio tells Shun to hide that he's from the surface. He makes a cover for Shun's shirt and calls it a disguise. Shun thinks it's a good idea, and they all go separate ways. When they're buying things, Shun only has 500 yen, which doesn't work in Endora. Alicia gives Shun money to buy what he wants. While they're looking around, a boy steals Emilio's knife and runs away. Emilio catches him, but finds out the boy is trying to take care of his little brothers and sisters. Shun and Alicia give them food. Alicia says it's okay that the boy stole because life is hard for people without help. Shun plays basketball with the kids. Alicia likes how happy Shun is and wonders if everyone from the surface is like him. On their way back, a girl attacks them. She uses her warp relic to make explosions, and tries to hurt Emilio. She keeps saying kill the prince like a robot. Then, Demetrio and Uljuia come to help them. Demetrio catches the girl without hurting her. Uljuia says she's a killer. He explains that most killers are kids who were taken when they were young and sold to the highest bidder. These kids are trained to kill and don't have any feelings. This is how people keep them under control. They won't stop until their target is dead. Here, Emilio is the girl's target. Someone who hates the royal family sent her. Uljuia says killers always wear a collar. Demetrio decides to end it all and breaks the collar. The girl is now free. Demetrio tells her to forget her old life and join them. He says she can make a change and shouldn't waste her chance. He gives her a doll like the other kids. Back home, Demetrio introduces the girl to everyone. She says her name is Misha. Demetrio makes her part of the Ignat family. The next day, Pascal goes alone to finish something at the royal lab like he always does, while the others go to the sea. They reach the ship they will use to travel. It's old and shaky. Everyone goes on board, and the ship starts moving. Later, they can't find Emilio. Emilio is with Demetrio. Emilio asks Demetrio if he can understand the Zuzians. Demetrio says yes, but explains that not all Zuzians are bad. Some are different. He tells Emilio the island they are going to is full of Zuzians. Then, a big storm comes. The ship rocks a lot. Shun and Emilio argue instead of helping each other. Felix saves them from falling into the water. They make it to the island, but the ship is broken. Demetrio says they can't go back without the Zuzians helping them. Suddenly, an arrow flies by. They are surrounded by Zuzians all of a sudden. Demetrio wants to talk to their leader. The Zuzians tie them up. Their leader sees Demetrio is not scared. He asks Demetrio what he wants. Demetrio says they need the Zuzians to fight the king. The leader asks what they will get in return. Demetrio says they will be free and safe. The leader says he will help, but Demetrio must die. Demetrio's friends don't want him to die and start to argue about it. But Demetrio doesn't care as long as his friends are safe. The leader says he will help Demetrio's group if Demetrio dies. So Demetrio tells his friends to let them kill him. They are about to kill Demetrio when Louise stops them, saying she can't watch Demetrio die. Then, many of the Ignats say they will die instead of Demetrio. Before they know it, they're making a lot of noise. The leader is angry and yells at them to be quiet. He tells Demetrio to come with him to talk alone. The leader's name is Gradito. Gradito finally says he will help Demetrio's group. He wants to know if they will fight the king's army, but Demetrio says no. Demetrio just wants the leader's help to look strong. He wants everything to go smoothly. Gradito asks if Demetrio wants to be the leader after everything is done, but Demetrio says no. He will choose someone else to be the leader. Gradito likes Demetrio's answers and believes him now. The next day, Gradito gives the crew a new boat and lots of things they would need. He also gives them a special whistle to use if they need help. The crew sails to a different city where their next trip will be up a snowy mountain. The morning after, the crew starts to climb the mountain. But soon, a big snowstorm starts, and they have to stop. The crew makes a camp to stay safe from the storm. Emilio and Shun are in the same tent. Shun asks Emilio why he wants to stop Delzane from being king. Emilio says Delzane killed his real dad to be king himself. He asks Shun what Shun would do. Shun says he would be mad too, but he would forget about wanting revenge because of his mom. Shun says Emilio has Alicia and Pascal who would do anything for him. Emilio is quiet and goes into deep thought after Shun talks to him. The next day, the crew keeps walking on the snowy path. They see big footprints in the snow, and Shun wonders what made them. Demetrio says the footprints are from a dragon. Shun is surprised because he didn't know dragons lived in Andorra. Then, the ground under Uljuia breaks and he falls into a cave. Demetrio and the others go into the cave to find Uljuia. Felarian helps them find Uljuia because it can find people by sensing their warp relics. Suddenly, they see a very big dragon coming towards them. Demetrio suggests running away, and they start to leave the cave. But then, another scary dragon appears. Suddenly, Felarian changes into a huge dragon to protect everyone. Alicia, Emilio, and Shun see strange things happening. They look like they're dreaming. Felarian stands in front of Alicia and talks, which really surprises her. Felarian says he is actually Alicia's dad. He tells her that he used to be a hunter, but quit to be with Alicia's mom. But bandits killed her, so he left home to hunt them down. While fighting, his warp relic evolved and sucked him inside itself. He's been trapped ever since. He's like a living dragon relic now. Felarian says he's always with Alicia and will always protect her. Alicia starts crying. Then, everything goes back to normal. Julia explains that the dragons were just trying to keep their family safe. They thought the group were bad people who hurt dragons. The group still has a long way to go, so the generous dragons offer to give them a ride. The dragons carry them for a while, and then leave to go back to their home. It would be great if the dragons could take them all the way to Babylon, but they can't because they need to be close to their home. They are also afraid of hunters. Looking at the map, the crew see that they are now closer to Babylon than before. Suddenly, Julia faints and everyone is scared. When he wakes up, he says he saw something strange while he was asleep. He saw Endora being destroyed. He tells them that Endora is in big trouble. At the king's place, a scientist tells the king that he is almost finished building Babel. While they are talking, the Zuzians working for Delzane arrive. These Zuzians have been watching Emilio and his friends. They tell the king that Gredito is working with Demetrio. The king sees a hurt mark on Ebelda, a Zuzian who fought Emilio and Shun. The king is angry because Ebelda was only supposed to watch, not fight. Elsewhere in the royal archives, Pascal is looking at old papers. He finds that the king has gotten rid of almost everything about Babel. It seems like the king is hiding something very bad. Pascal wants to learn more about Babel before sending Shun back to the surface. Joseph is an overexcited rookie scientist who's working with Pascal. He says they will know more about something called warp particles tomorrow. Pascal is worried because these particles are very important for Endora, and they are getting less and less. If all the particles are gone, it will be really bad for the kingdom. The next day, Shun wakes up and learns that Demetrio has a guest named Ralph. He tells Demetrio that more and more powerful people are joining their side. Demetrio is told to call them for help if he needs it. After that, Emilio and Shun start fighting again. Emilio still wants to kill his dad, but Shun doesn't want him to. Shun wants Emilio to forget about wanting revenge and accept what happened. Emilio doesn't want to listen. Shun tells Emilio about what happened to Alicia's dad. He could get so angry that he gets stuck in a strange place forever, just like Alicia's dad. Emilio doesn't care and keeps arguing. Shun gets really mad and hits Emilio in the face, but Emilio doesn't fight back. Shun yells at Emilio, saying that he cares about Emilio's problems too. Shun is angry and leaves. Before he goes, he says he always thinks about Emilio's problems. Back in the lab, Pascal and Joseph find out what happened to the warp particles. They learn that the particles have been getting less since the king took over. Pascal needs to go to Babylon before the king. Joseph tells Pascal that he made a special car that can fly. They both get in the car and fly to Babylon. At the same time, our crew finally arrives in Babylon. But it looks like the king is already there and is getting ready to open a way to the surface. There are 4 doors into Babylon, but only one goes to Babel. Julius studies his map to find the correct door. He tells the group that this door will take them straight to Babel. But there's a problem. They have to climb a very tall wall to get to the other side. They hurry to climb up. Emilio almost falls, but Shun helps him. Finally, they reach the top, only to find a maze. Just as they're about to go into the maze, Demetrio tells Emilio he doesn't want to kill the king. Instead, he wants to dethrone him peacefully. He asks Emilio why he wants to kill the king so badly. Emilio says the king killed his dad. Demetrio says he also wanted revenge, but changed his mind. He thinks fighting can't stop fighting. He asks Emilio to wait for his orders before hurting the king. Suddenly, they see the truculent, who are the Zuzians working for Delzane, in front of them, and realize they're in trouble. The leader of the truculent introduces himself as Gaidoro, and says he has a problem with Demetrio. The rest of the bad guys fight Demetrio's friends. Ebelda wants to fight Emilio and Shun really badly because they hurt him before. While everyone is fighting, Felix wins his fight. Gaidoro is losing to Demetrio, so he quickly runs and hides. Emilio sees this chance and runs away through the Babel gate. Shun and Alicia try to follow him. Julia stops Ebelda from going after them. Then, Louise stops Julia's spell to let Ebelda go. Julia is surprised and wants to know why. It turns out Louise is working with the truculent. She says she was treated badly because her dad is from Zuzians, and her mom is from Endura. She has been angry for a long time. She joined Demetrio's group to be safe, but was actually helping Gaidoro. She tries to hurt Julia, but Demetrio comes. Demetrio knows Louise is a traitor but is careful when he fights her. Shun and Alicia are still trying to catch Emilio to stop him from hurting his dad. After that, Emilio finally finds Delzane, who is waiting for his way towards the surface. Emilio pulls out his warp relic and says he's ready to finish everything. The king asks Emilio what he will do after he kills him. The king says Endora needs a leader, so Emilio must have a plan. At the same time, Louise is still fighting Demetrio. Felix and Misha are also fighting Ebelda. While Louise and Demetrio are fighting, Eljuia wants to help, but Demetrio stops him. He wants to talk to Louise alone. Demetrio tells Louise she's fooling herself. He heard her say she joined them for money because of her family. But Demetrio is sure Louise cares about the group. He reminds her of when she saved him on the Zuzian island. Louise might say she's using the group, but she really likes them. Louise says Demetrio is lying. She tries to beat Demetrio but can't. This shows her she can't hurt anyone in the group. Demetrio talks to her calmly. He says they can find a way to help her. Louise says she was sent to watch the Ignats. She was doing her job until she started to believe Demetrio. She starts crying, and Eljuia gives her tissue to dry her eyes. Demetrio says they don't have time to cry. They need to do something. Ebelda is still fighting Misha and Felix when Demetrio and the others arrive. Ebelda runs away, but Demetrio says not to worry because they know where he went. Demetrio also tells Misha and Felix that Louise is okay with them now. They talk things over and solve their problems. Emilio is busy fighting his dad when Shun and Alicia come in. Emilio says the king killed his real dad and sent Pascal away from the palace. Emilio stops fighting when he hears Shun and Alicia. He's about to start again, but Shun stops him. Shun tells the king to tell Emilio what he wants to know. He says the king can end Emilio's anger by telling the truth. Suddenly, Abelda shows up and attacks Emilio. The king tells him to stop, but he doesn't listen. The king knows Abelda will kill his son, so he has to do something. He tries to save his son, but gets attacked by Abelda's warp relic. The king falls down, and Emilio yells. Abelda uses the chance to escape. He says goodbye to the kids, and goes into the bright light connecting to the surface. Emilio and the others watch as the light takes him away. Shun turns around and sees Emilio holding his dad. Pascal and Joseph also come in at the same time. Before the king dies, he tells Emilio he's proud of him because he's become strong. Demetrio and the others come into the room too. Everyone is quiet as Delzane breathes his last, and Emilio realizes that he hasn't been completely right all this time. Everyone in the room feels differently about what just happened. Pascal wants to go back to the royal laboratory to write down their information and discoveries. Joseph tells Pascal they have a problem. They don't have enough fuel to fly back home. They used all the plane's fuel to come to Babylon and didn't think about needing fuel to go back. Pascal is worried because he doesn't understand what's going on and really wants to know why the warp particles have gotten smaller since Delzane took over. Pascal wishes he could have talked to the king sooner to ask him what happened. Shun finds Emilio sitting by himself, looking sad. Shun tries to make Emilio feel better and gives him an apple. Emilio tells Shun he's sorry for not keeping his promise. Emilio promised to do everything he could to make sure Shun got home safely, but because of what happened to Bobble, they might not be able to use it again. Shun tells Emilio not to blame himself. Emilio starts talking about his life. He says he has always wanted to get revenge. That's all he ever thought about. He wanted to kill Delzane. Now that the king is dead, he still doesn't feel happy. He wonders if he feels this way because he didn't kill Delzane himself. Right now, he thinks he was wrong. He tries to remember what his real dad looked like, but he can only see Delzane's face. This makes him wonder if Delzane is really the one who killed his dad. He has no proof, just things he heard. He feels stupid. Pascal and Alicia have been telling him this all along, but he was too grumpy to listen. Shun thinks Emilio is being silly and saying hurtful things. Emilio has always pretended not to like Shun or care about him. But the truth is, he's always helped Shun when he was in trouble. Even when Shun yelled at him to go away, Emilio didn't leave. They might say they don't like each other, but they always help each other out. Emilio wants to learn more about the surface. Shun says it's not much different from where they are now. There's fighting and war there too. Emilio is confused about why Delzane wanted to go there so badly. Shun says maybe there's another way to get there without using Bobble. He doesn't want to give up on going back to his home. The king is dead, and the royal guards are back in the city. Things are getting crazy in the whole country. The Ignats want to stay in Babylon until they finish looking into Bobble. Pascal and Joseph are studying Bobble using the information they found. They think Bobble worked as it was meant to, but they don't know for sure if Abelda really went to the surface. They need proof from the surface. Maybe the way to the surface is blocked. Meanwhile, Emilio is talking to Demetrio. Emilio wants to know what the Ignats will do now that the king is gone. Demetrio says there will be trouble because people will fight over land. They need to make peace first. After talking to Demetrio, Shun wants to spar with Emilio. Emilio doesn't want to at first, but Shun makes him get up. They start fighting. Louise sees them. Later, Louise tells the Ignats she wants to leave. She says she is a traitor, and they won't ever feel safe with her. Just as she is about to leave, she gets a message that Gradito's people on the Zuzian island are in trouble, Invaders with ships are trying to make them slaves. Demetrio tells the Ignates that their job is just beginning. They must work together to stop the fighting that's happening all over the country. Emilio and Shun are still fighting each other. Neither one wants to quit. Shun wants to make Emilio feel better and stop being sad. After more fighting, Emilio wins in a sneaky way. Emilio knows Shun is trying to help him feel happier. Shun tells Emilio he's always gloomy and needs to stop wanting revenge. Emilio feels sad because he thinks he has no reason to live. Emilio and Shun then go to the Ignates, who are busy planning how to help the people on Zuzian Island. Emilio tells them he wants to join the Ignates officially. He's seen a lot on his trip and knows the world needs to be fixed. Shun tells Demetrio he also wants to join and help in any way he can. Just then, Pascal comes in. He says he finished looking into the bauble site and can confirm that the gate is blocked from the surface. He wonders why there's a lock from the surface when people there don't know about Endora. Maybe it's just a coincidence. However, Pascal wants to go to the royal lab to do more tests. After that, they leave Babylon. There are lots of fights happening all over Endora. The leaders are being unfair and making everyone suffer. Demetrio and his friends show up at a village while soldiers are hurting people. They fight the soldiers and after a while, they win. Then, Demetrio and his friends go to the village leader's house. Demetrio tells him that since the king died, there have been lots of fights everywhere in Endora. He says they want to stop the fighting. The village leader hopes that Emilio will be the new king. He thinks Endora will be a good place if Emilio is in charge. But Emilio doesn't want to be king yet. That night, the leader of the soldiers is angry with Demetrio and the Ignates. He tells his captain to attack them while he eats a big meal. But then, the captain is killed by a big, scary creature who then also attacks the soldier leader. The next day, Demetrio and his friends go to the soldier leader's house. When they get there, it's strange because the place is empty and quiet. They go inside and find the leader looking scared. He tells them that a scary creature went wild and killed the captain. Suddenly, the creature appears again and kills the leader too by stabbing him with his relic. Demetrio and his friends are surprised to see that the creature is Ebelda, but he looks very different. He is now Meter and has lots of hidden weapons. Ebelda goes crazy as he attacks Demetrio and his friends. They are confused and scared as Ebelda fights them. Ebelda has gotten stronger and pushes them out of the house. He keeps attacking and almost kills Demetrio. Luckily, Ebelda's old friend, Gaidoro, comes and stops him. Gaidoro is someone Ebelda tried to kill but couldn't. They fight each other hard until Ebelda runs away. After that, Demetrio asks Gaidoro to join them. Gaidoro has nothing else to do, so he agrees. The next day, Demetrio and his friends finally sail to Zuzian Island, which is still under attack. Luckily, the attackers haven't been able to get onto the island because the island's defenses are strong. On the way, Pascal talks about Bauble. He says Bauble only works if both worlds open a path at the same time. Since only Endora has opened a way, they can't go to the surface world. This explains how Ebelda wasn't successful in escaping to the surface and came back with a weird transformation. Pascal also says that the warp particles holding Endora together are now getting weaker. If this keeps happening, Endora will break apart and disappear. Nobody knows why this is happening. Pascal needs to go to the capital to learn more about it. After that, Gradito says he wants to join Demetrio's Ignates. Demetrio is really happy about this and says he's been hoping for it. They finally reach Zuzian Island. There's a full-on fight with the invaders, but Demetrio and his friends win easily. They land on the island and meet the Zuzians. Later, Demetrio says Gradito can be in charge of the northern area after the fighting in Endora is over. Emilio thinks the Zuzians are still considered mean by masses, and people won't like this, but he doesn't argue with Demetrio. Meanwhile, Alicia is having a good time with Louise, Misha, and Aljuia. While they are enjoying themselves, Alicia says she is thinking of ways to help out. Louise playfully tells her to marry Emilio. It is very clear that Alicia likes Emilio. She tries to say it's not true, but then eventually admits that she does have feelings for him. Alicia promises to tell Emilio how she feels, but she hopes he likes her too. Later at night, Emilio talks to Pascal about his father, the original king. Pascal explains that when his dad was king, his brother Delzane was in charge of the north. At that time, Bauble was still around. Delzane, who ruled the north, went to Bauble a lot. Pascal thinks Delzane started to get interested in Bauble. The next day, the group travels by boat back to the capital to stop the fighting in all of Endora. When they reach the city and go inside the palace, it is very quiet. There are only a few soldiers and workers there. A soldier named Aaron tells Emilio what is happening. It turns out that half of the soldiers went with the king to Babylon and never came back. They seem to have become thieves and ran away after hearing that the king was killed. Most of the soldiers in the palace also left because Endora does not have a leader now. Sadly, Eren and the other royal soldiers do not want Demetrio to stay in the palace. Emilio tells them that Demetrio and his friends are good people, but everyone is still unsure and they keep arguing. Elsewhere, Pascal and Joseph enter the royal laboratory. They get shocked to see that there's no scientist there, and they would be the only ones working. Suddenly, they get joined by Rodney, who is Pascal's old colleague. Rodney was apparently Pascal's senior back when he worked full-time for Delzane. While this is happening, Emilio walks around the palace alone and stands in front of the king's old seat. Demetrio sees him and asks why he looks sad. Emilio says he is worried about who will be the next leader and that the people need a new ruler. Demetrio tells him not to worry and says he must learn how his father and Delzane were as leaders. He promises to help Emilio learn to be a good king. Outside the palace, Gradito and Louise feel something strange in the nearby woods. In the lab, Pascal and Joseph find out from Rodney that the palace might be in danger. He says that scary creatures are gathering in the woods close to the palace. The soldiers are scared when they hear about the monsters, but Eren makes them feel better. Everyone is surprised when they see the Zuzians and the Ignots coming to help. Emilio tells Eren not to be shocked because they have been fighting side by side for a while now. Eren doesn't want Emilio to join the battle, but Shun tells Eren not to worry because Emilio is safe. Shun knows Emilio can take care of himself. They then realize that the scary creatures are the same ones they fought before with Ebelda. It's clear that Ebelda is behind this attack. Shun and Emilio join the other fighters in the forest to fight the monsters. Ebelda finds Emilio and Shun and still wants to kill them both. Ebelda uses the monsters to hide while he attacks Emilio and Shun. Gaidoro comes to help Emilio and Shun. There are too many monsters, and Emilio and Shun are in trouble. But then the soldiers come to help and they are really excited to fight the monsters. Demetrio helps from behind by stabbing Ebelda with a knife, which gives Shun a chance to hurt Ebelda with his sword. Ebelda knows he is losing and runs away. The soldiers are happy because they saved the city and the castle from the monsters. The soldiers put Emilio on their shoulders to show how happy they are that he beat the enemy. Emilio's friends see him as a hero for everyone in the country. The following morning, Gaidoro tells Emilio and Demetrio that he wants to find Ebelda. They worry that he might be alone and in danger because Ebelda can now make monsters. Louise says she will go with Gaidoro to help him. Demetrio thinks that even with Louise, Gaidoro might still be in trouble, so he asks Felix and Misha to go with them too. Meanwhile, Emilio takes Shun to the same place where Shun first appeared. Emilio thinks this might be the way for Shun to go back home. He says Endora is ending soon, so Shun needs to leave before it's too late. Shun gets angry at Emilio for being sad and not doing more as a prince. They start arguing and almost fight, but Shun falls off a cliff. Emilio catches him and they hold onto a wall. They find some stairs and go down them. They are surprised to find a prisoner at the bottom. The prisoner, Frama, is a Zuzian and says King Elzerm put him there. Frama used to be the leader of the Truculent, a group that protected the king, but then the king got angry and locked him up. Emilio wants to know more about the king, so Frama tells him that Elzerm was a good king who everyone liked. But then, something changed him. Frama tells them that long ago, they found someone passed out near the castle and were about to leave him there. But when they saw he was still alive and from the surface, they brought him inside to help him get better. The king really liked this man who got well quickly. The man could go back and forth between the castle and the surface and brought the king cool things. He said he was a scientist, and that's why he could travel so easily. The king wanted to know everything the man knew about the outside world. Even though Delzane said it was a bad idea, the king listened to the man talk about amazing things from the outside. The man asked the king to mix the warp particles from the castle with the things from the surface, and the king said yes. The man then wanted to take some of the castle's warp particles to the surface. Delzane tried to warn the king that these were important for the castle, but the king didn't listen. Frama didn't like what was happening and argued with the man. The man tricked everyone into thinking Frama was trying to hurt him, so the king locked Frama up in this dark place. Frama has been there ever since. Now, Frama hears about Shun being from the outside world. He gets mad and uses his warp relic and goes after Shun. Shun's own relic comes out to fight Frama. When the two hit, a bright light fills the place, and suddenly Shun and Emilio find themselves on the surface. Shun is super happy to be back on the surface and yells with joy. Emilio is really surprised to find they are there. They both go to Shun's home. His mom opens the door and is astonished to see him. She cries and hugs him tight because she missed him a lot. Shun tells his mom about Emilio. He says there's a whole different world underground where Emilio lives. Shun knows his mom might not think it's true, but he wants to say it anyway. He says Emilio is proof They go inside to talk. His mom tells him she believes him. There are stories about secret ways to go underground all over the world. Some people don't think it's real, but Shun's parents do. His dad studies the underground a lot. That's why he's always at work and doesn't come home much. Shun says he'll go see his dad tomorrow to surprise him. The next day, Shun and Emilio go to Shun's dad's workplace. Not long after, the two friends arrive at the Asanaga building. Shun's dad is happy to see him and says he is glad Shun is safe. Shun then introduces Emilio to his dad. Shun's dad tells Shun that a special crystal his mom found a long time ago brought him to Endora. This crystal can move people between the two worlds. Shun's dad says he will study the crystal more, but Emilio feels strange around Shun's dad. He has a bad feeling about him. As they are leaving, Emilio remembers something from when he was a child. He saw Delzane tell his dad to not trust Shun's dad, Asanaga. Emilio tells Shun what he remembered. Then he runs back to the building with Shun following him. Emilio gets to Asanaga's office again and says he remembers everything. Shun is confused. Emilio says Asanaga took Delzane's son and Ulzerm was trying to help him. But before Emilio can finish, Asanaga shoots him. Asanaga tells Shun not to move and reveals he is not Shun's real father. It turns out the bullet only touched Emilio and didn't hurt him much. Emilio learns that Asanaga killed Ulzerm. Asanaga says he used the same gun to shoot Ulzerm in the past. Emilio is very angry and wants to hurt Asanaga but stops because Asanaga is Shun's dad. Asanaga tells Shun to come with him. He says he may not be Shun's real dad but he raised him. Shun is too surprised to say anything. Emilio throws a knife at Asanaga to distract him and then takes Shun away. We see a memory of when Asanaga first came to Endora. Delzane took him to his brother. Asanaga told Ulzerm and Delzane about a special crystal he found before being pulled into a bright light. Asanaga went back to tell his wife about the crystal's power. She was pregnant. Sadly, their baby died, which made Asanaga very sad. Asanaga returned to Endora and told the king he was interested in the warp particles. While talking with Delzane and the king, young Emilio came in. The king told Asanaga his brother's son was sick and asked if he could find a cure on the surface. Asanaga suggested rebuilding Bobble so they could all go to the surface, and he could easily help Delzane's son. This would also let them bring lots of other useful things from the surface to Endora. Delzane only wanted to save his sick son but didn't want to bring back the old gate in Bobble. He said old stories warned them against opening it, but Ulzerm still wanted to open it. Delzane went home and felt very sad seeing his sick son. He agreed to let Asanaga take his son to the surface to get him cured. After this, the king gave Asanaga everything he needed to rebuild Bobble. When Asanaga finished building it, he killed Ulzerm in cold blood and told Delzane he is leaving Endora forever. Delzane wanted his son back, but Asanaga said he had to come to the surface to get him. Asanaga then broke Bobble and went back to his world. In the present time, Shun and Emilio go back home. Shun's mom opens the door for them. They tell her everything they found out. Shun's mom says everything Asanaga said was true. She tells Shun about the day Asanaga brought him home sick. They took care of him until he got better and he brought happiness to their home. She feels sorry for not letting Asanaga take Shun back to where he came from. Then, Shun's mom gives Shun a crest he held when Asanaga brought him home. Emilio says it is a very important crest only held by the king's family. This means Shun is related to Ulzerm, and his real dad is in fact Delzane. That night, Shun becomes sad because he can't bring himself to believe that his dad is actually a murderer. In Endora, Demetrio and his friends are told by a guard that Emilio and Shun went to the dungeon and haven't been seen since. Demetrio slowly realizes that the boys have probably gone to the surface. On the surface, Emilio visits Asanaga again, who is surprised to see him. Emilio wants to talk about Shun. Asanaga tells his guards to take Emilio to his office. Once there, Asanaga points a gun at Emilio and admits to killing Emilio's father, Ulzerm. Asanaga says Ulzerm was a bad king who was easily influenced and was mean to the Zuzians. He thinks Delzane would be a better king. Emilio asks if Asanaga loves Shun, and Asanaga says yes, even though Shun isn't his real son. Asanaga claims he's doing everything for Shun and his family, and won't hurt Emilio unless he gets in the way. Emilio goes home and tells Shun he just talked to his father. He advises Shun to talk to Asanaga and find out why he's acting this way. Shun thanks Emilio and agrees to talk to his father. Back in Endora, Pascal calls everyone together for a meeting. He has something important to tell them. At the same time, Uljuia is locked in a room doing a strange ritual. He won't eat or leave until it's finished. Pascal then tells the group that they've found a way to travel between Endora and the surface. The scene shifts to Shun, who is at the place where his dad first started working. He has sent a message to his dad to come there quickly. Shun wants to know why his dad killed Ulzerm. Asanaga soon arrives and then takes out a shiny stone from his body. He says the stone lets him travel between this world and Endora. The stone is called Perrin Blue. At the same time, Pascal is telling the crew about the Perrin Blue in Endora. This is how Shun first got to Endora. There is actually a Perrin Blue inside Shun's body. If someone has it, they can go back and forth between the two worlds whenever they want. This explains why Shun suddenly went back to this world when he was in trouble. Shun's dad says Shun took the power of the Perrin Blue when he touched the one in his office. He wants to use warp particles to make life better on the surface. But he says Endora will soon be gone because the particles are going to deplete there. When that happens, Endora will be finished. Shun is surprised when his dad says he is the one making the particles disappear. Shun doesn't think his dad should destroy Endora to reach his goals. His dad gets mad and points a gun at Shun. He is ready to hurt anyone who stops him. Emilio tries to help but Asanaga knocks him down. Shun's dad is about to shoot when Shun uses the Perrin Blue and disappears again with Emilio. They end up in Endora once again where Louise, Felix, Gaidoro and Misha are going head-to-head with Ebelda. Soon, Emilio and Shun join the others in their battle against Ebelda. Ebelda is about to kill Gaidoro, but Emilio and Shun stop him by cutting off his arm. Ebelda then mutates and changes into a huge, scary monster made of tar. This giant monster is very dangerous for Shun and the others. Misha tries to fight Ebelda, but the monster hurts her badly. Felix protects Misha but gets hurt in the process. Misha tries again to fight the monster, but Louise saves her. They can't defeat Ebelda, so Emilio says they should go away for now. In his meditation room, Uljuya is trying really hard to connect with Endora. Suddenly, he falls down, and Demetrio comes running in. Uljuya tells Demetrio that he heard Endora's voice, but then he faints because he is very tired. Pascal tells Demetrio that Uljuya just shared important information. Uljuya said that warp particles are gathering in one place. This means there is a machine taking these particles, and it's in the middle of the ocean. Demetrio then talks about a place called Tur-Na-Nog. People say it's the ruins of an old, amazing city. It's like a magical place that is very hard to find. Maybe Tur-Na-Nog is in the middle of the ocean where the machine is. But some of the group don't believe that this place really exists. Just then, Shun and Emilio walk into the room. Shun is sure that such a device really exists. Louise and Felix are being taken care of because they are hurt. Alicia wants to know where Shun and Emilio were. Shun tells her they went to the surface. He tells Pascal and the others that there is some device taking away the warp particles from Tur-Na-Nog. He wants them to look for it to make sure. Then, Shun says something surprising. His father Asanaga is the one transporting the warp particles. Everyone is amazed, and they also cannot believe that Delzane is Shun's real dad. Soon after, Shun, Emilio, and Pascal get ready to go to Tur-Na-Nog. Alicia asks Felarian to become big so he can fly them there. As they are about to go, they see Ebelda coming to the castle. He is even bigger than before. When Felarian flies over Ebelda, Ebelda grabs Felarian with his long arms. Pascal falls on the monster. Pascal tells Shun and Emilio to go on without him. He uses a bomb to make Ebelda let go of Felarian so he can fly away. Pascal also takes the explosion. Emilio is very sad because he probably lost another friend. Demetrio tells Ralph and Joseph to find Pascal while the others fight Ebelda. He thinks Pascal could still be alive. Demetrio has a strong bomb that Pascal made himself. He says it will be helpful against Ebelda. Shun tells Emilio not to worry about Pascal because he is tough. Soon, Shun and Emilio can see Tur-Na-Nog. Joseph is searching for Pascal as he still wants to learn from him and couldn't lose him. He doesn't want Pascal to die. Emilio and Shun reach Tur-Na-Nog. They tell Felarian to go higher. The building is very tall, reaching the clouds. They get to the top, which is in the clouds. They see a big crystal. They decide to break it. They use their warp relic to hit the crystal. But it's very hard. Nothing happens to the crystal. Shun knows about crystals and finds a weak spot. They hit it, and it breaks. They plan to keep on destroying the crystal. But Asanaga comes and stops them. Asanaga tells Shun that he can't let Shun break his special invention. At the same time, the Ignots are still having a tough time with Ebelda. Demetrio tells some of his people to keep Ebelda busy while they use a bomb to explode its head. They start their plan. Gaidoro will put the bomb in place while the others keep Ebelda distracted. Demetrio and the others are able to keep Ebelda busy so Gaidoro can get really close to it. He hits Ebelda's head with his sword and is about to throw the bomb. But Ebelda swallows him whole. He tries to fight from inside Ebelda but quickly uses the bomb, killing himself and blowing up Ebelda's head. The monster disappears right away. Back in Tur-Na-Nog, Asanaga calls for his warp relic. The weapon looks like a big octopus with sharp points. Asanaga says he used part of Ulzerm's body to make this special warp relic. Asanaga hurts Felarian by putting one of his tentacles into his chest. Emilio and Shun rage and fight Asanaga together, but Asanaga is too strong and pushes them back easily. Asanaga laughs at Emilio and says he should have gotten rid of him when he first came to see him. Emilio gets mad and his warp relic evolves. Emilio fights Asanaga for a little while and even breaks one of Asanaga's special tentacles. Asanaga gets angry and knocks Emilio down. He is about to kill him when Shun stops him. Shun's warp relic also changes and he also breaks one of Asanaga's tentacles. Asanaga now only has 3 left. Back in the woods, Joseph and Ralph finally find Pascal, who is alive but stuck. A parachute is keeping him from falling. Going back to Emilio and Shun, Asanaga has knocked them both down. He goes closer to Shun and tries to talk to him nicely. He says he got really strong because of Makiko and Shun. Everyone now knows who he is. Shun tells him that Makiko would not be happy to see him like this. Asanaga goes nuts again and grabs Shun with 2 of his tentacles. He wants to kill Shun with the last one, but he can't because he remembers all the good times they had. Just then, Emilio's warp relic evolves once again, and he attacks Asanaga. Fillarian gets up and helps Emilio's attack get even stronger, and he stabs into Asanaga's body. The building stops working right away. Asanaga falls to the ground. Shun yells out in pain, but knows it was the right thing to do. He thanks Emilio for saving him. Then, the whole Ternanog building starts to break apart. The boys are about to fall and die, but Fillarian saves them. When they go back to the castle later that day, everyone is glad to see them. Demetrio thanks Shun and Emilio for helping them. Emilio says the Ignats have taught him a lot about what is right and wrong, and they have been good friends to him. After that, the celebrations begin with a lot of food and booze. Demetrio tells everyone how much Shun and Emilio helped and sacrificed. After that, Demetrio announces that Ralph and Gredito will work together to control and watch over the whole northern region. Demetrio gives everyone jobs. Emilio and Shun will take care of the southern lands with Demetrio himself leading them. Shun goes out to the terrace to get some fresh air, so Emilio follows him. Shun tells Emilio that he likes living in Endora, but has to go back to be with his mom. Makiko will be alone, and he can't leave her. Shun tells Emilio he has to go, and asks him to apologize to everyone for him disappearing suddenly as he isn't good at goodbyes. Shun says goodbye to his cousin Emilio with a heavy heart, and See You Again starts playing in the background. He shakes Emilio's hand for the final time, and uses the Perrin Blue to go back home. When he gets there, the Perrin Blue breaks. Shun says he might not be able to come back, but he will always remember Endora. Thanks for watching, my fellow plot boys, and don't forget to subscribe for more top-notch quality anime recaps. And until next time, guys, take care. Guys.